person with the same middle initial that I had as well. So also think about how that comes into play, because there could be people who have some negative information online with your same name and it's not you. So it might be, if they don't have the same middle initial, you might want to include your middle initial online, or vice versa. So really, really look to see what's out there. You can also do, there's Monique. You can do image searches. So if you're familiar with Google, when you do put in a name, you can do in like kind of all, and then you can do an image search and see what images come up. And you can see if you've been tagged in a lot of social media, you can see some of those images come up. And so think about how that's going to present to people who are potentially looking to hire you. And so if you have friends who are on social media and they post a lot and their accounts are public and they've tagged you in photos, some of those could potentially come up. So think that, check that out before starting to apply for some of these positions. The other thing always to keep in mind is, as you're posting online or interacting online, is your language and your voice. So the voice is how you come across, and this comes into play whether it's a business or it's you personally. So your voice could be professional, and so then what's happening is you're always making sure your spelling is and grammar are very articulate and perfect, and you're making sure to use bigger words and maybe using a thesaurus a lot. And your voice could be very stern, it could be strict. And what happens is there's these 2 points of how you interact on social media and how you have your voice and your tone. And so the voice is what's always there. So maybe what your job is, your film job or film company that you're starting is, you want to work with kids. So you want to be filming kids. So your voice is going to be fun. It might be might use some slang. You might always kind of be boisterous and colorful with your voice. Now, if you're going to be filming kids, but you were going to be looking for a sad topic. So if you're doing, just for an example, you're filming a commercial for a cancer institute that works with kids. So then if you're doing like a call for kids to be in your commercial, you would still have a fun, joyful voice, but your tone might be a little bit calmer because you're kind of doing a sadder topic. And this is, if you're going to be working with a corporate America, then your voice is always going to be very professional, but your tone, depending on the topic you're posting about, might be more fun sometimes, or it might be more strict. And so these always kind of, your voice always stays the same online, but your tone varies. And it's really important to really go back to that idea of who your target is and who you're trying to reach, to decide how the voice is and how your tone is. And this is used so we're going to talk a little bit about setting up your LinkedIn profile. So when you're setting up your LinkedIn profile and you're writing these descriptions about yourself, you're going to keep in mind this idea of voice. So making sure you're writing to the people that you ideally want reading your profile. So what are they looking for? What are they going to consider important? What do they want to hear from you? Do they want someone who's going to be fun and silly, or do they want someone who's very strict and serious? Also think about kind of your languaging, whether you're using slang or profanity. Sometimes that's appropriate depending on who, again, that target is and who's reading it. Some people would be very turned off by any type of slang. But again, if you're looking to reach kids or teens or those in kind of a fun industry, then using a little bit of slang is going to help you connect with them. The other things to always remember, especially, I think everyone's online to a degree. They're online on social media, sometimes multiple platforms. It's really easy to get sucked into a lot of the discussions that are going on online. And remember, not all of that is private. A lot of it is public. And so all of that, again, that's going back to doing that audit, can be seen. And so try to remember not to get sucked in and to be careful about what you're commenting on, the languaging that you're using. Be careful about using sarcasm, because it doesn't come across online very well and people may think you're being serious. And things turn into really heated discussions really quickly online. And that spreads and then can be very easily found by a potential employer. Also be careful about the friends that you're connecting with online, because if they are doing things that are either illegal or shady, or they have use a lot of profanity, and you're getting tagged in the things that they're posting, again, that could potentially be seen by an employer. So there's a lot of groups, so groups on LinkedIn, groups on Facebook. Again, employers can see the groups that you're part of. If the groups are private, then they can't see the discussions that happen in those groups, but they can see that you're a member of those groups. If the group is public, then everything you say on that group can be seen. Also, be really careful about the emails that you're using. These were like some crazy ones. They did a contest online of like some of the craziest emails that people actually used. So really think about the email address you're using. As you're looking for a job, either do one of two things. Either, sticking with a Gmail, that's your name, or if you have a domain. So if you're starting a business and you buy a domain, create an email with the domain. So your name at whatever the domain name is. I also recommend kind of staying away from AOL and Yahoo at this point. I don't know if anyone's still using them. A lot of people have kind of moved away, but they tend to have a lot of problems with delivery. And two, especially if you're in a tech-based industry, they're kind of looked at as very old school. So yeah, these were all real emails I found, so that some of them were pretty bad. Yeah. Just some more general no-nos online and in social media. And again, this is because those reasons those pictures come up. So no pictures of yourself really partying, drinking. Avoid complaining about your job. Again, even if it's private. Keep wary about posting on personal pages when you're supposed to be working, because there's timestamps on stuff. Making fun of bosses and coworkers, and it's really easy to do this because these are your private social media accounts. So it's easy to kind of go off and say whatever you want to say. But things that are kind of happening now is some jobs will ask to see your social media accounts before they'll hire you. So they want to, even if you've got set everything to private, they want to have your username and password to see it. And then you've got to decide if that job's worth it because of that. But it is something that does happen. So just kind of keep that in mind. Also be careful about revealing any company secrets or embarrassing photos of yourself or coworkers, because things spread really fast. The other thing to always keep in mind is, even though I mentioned sometimes they want to see your accounts, is to check your privacy settings on all of your accounts. because every time they do an update, like Facebook constantly does privacy updates, they change what is seen and what's not seen. So, you know, I usually keep my private accounts locked down pretty tight so people can't find me and nothing should be seen. Well, there was an update on Facebook that all of my old profile photos, even ones that were not used at that time, were then became public. And because I had done a search for my name, and in those Google images, my old profile photos all were showing. And so that's another thing to be careful of, is thinking about those profile images that even if it's a private account, can potentially be seen. So just always go in and kind of check those out. You know, even if you I even recommend setting a calendar listing to check them like once a month, to have something pop up and notify you to do it. It's the same thing with Twitter, even if you've privatized an account, and Instagram. So once you've kind of figured out, one, what your goals are, so what you're trying to do, who you're trying to reach, you can create new accounts and leave them public. So if you've got a private Facebook account, but you want to start looking for a job, you can set up a Facebook business page that's for yourself and leave it all public. So then what you're doing is you're posting on the Facebook page, and you're posting things about what you're doing in the field, or you're making your own little videos, or editing or design or audio work, whatever your goals are, and you're posting that on there publicly so that potential employers can see it and you can direct them there, and also any potential customers if you're looking to get hired individually. Same thing with LinkedIn. So you do typically have a LinkedIn profile page, which is the kind of you, and that is pretty much always public to anyone on LinkedIn. You could potentially create a LinkedIn company page if you wanted to start a business, and so then that is also public. You can be thinking about creating even if you have a private Instagram that's locked down and no one can see, you can create another Instagram that would be, even if it is your name or a company name, that's public. And I know that as far as video goes, that Vimeo is usually kind of the preferred platform, but YouTube is owned by Google, and so putting some pieces in YouTube can be beneficial just to be found online, because Google gives preference to its own platform. So what you can do is do kind of maybe your best work on Vimeo and direct people there from the other social media platforms, but then do little snippets on YouTube that people can find in the search engines. So I was going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn specifically, because I know that's you've got to set that up. But kind of some of this general idea of branding and presenting yourself online. Are there any questions about that before I get into LinkedIn specifically?
Does anybody have any questions? We got a lot of people that are just, okay.
Okay. All right. So then LinkedIn, I know that's kind of one of your next assignments, and your LinkedIn profile is promoting yourself for work. And it's a social media platform specifically designed for networking in the business community. So you're looking to put your most professional face forward, and you're looking to present your skills, your employment, your education, and the kind of the social media feed for posting is you're going to be doing things that are really focused on the jobs that you're looking to get. One of the differences with LinkedIn is because it's still a social media platform, even though it's kind of like an online resume, it's a little bit more personal than in the resume. And I was always, Monique, you can answer this. Do they still recommend resumes written in third person? Because that was always the kind of standard.
Not entirely. It's getting a little more creative, especially with creative industries. So
Okay.
a little bit more freedom there.
That's good. And LinkedIn continues with that. So again, you're using first person when you're doing your descriptions, and get as much multimedia as you can possibly add, especially for the fields that you guys are going into. So photos, videos, slideshows. You can integrate with something called SlideShare if you're familiar with it, pretty easily. So it doesn't work. You can link off to things like a Google slideshow, but the SlideShare integrates right into the profile. And just like with anything online, pay really close attention to spelling and grammar. People miss stuff all the time, and it just, even when it's trying to be more personal, you really want to pay attention to your spelling. You want to, when you're putting a photo, you're going to want to be as professional as possible versus what you might put on Facebook or what you might put on Instagram. And then you can also make sure to claim your custom URL. So typically when you set up your profile initially, it's going to give you just a bunch of numbers and letters randomly. So you're going to want to get your custom URL, do your name or as close to your name as you can get, because if someone else has a similar name, it may already be taken. But that's going to help potential employers find it. Your summary that you're going to write, you want probably about 3 or 4 paragraphs talking about what your skills are and also what you're looking for. So you can write about if you don't have a lot of experience in the field, but you do have a lot of, exactly what you're looking for, you can add that into the summary. So you can say, looking for a position in film doing editing or doing voiceovers, whatever specifically you're looking for. And then you can talk about kind of your experience that you do have, even if it isn't specific to what you want to do, but find a way to kind of tie it in. So if we're waiting tables for a really long time, then you have really great people skills, very patient working in customer service. So find ways of what you have done, what you do have experience in, and then tie that into what you really want to do. So it allows you to list your experience. So this is kind of the closest aspect to what your resume is. So you're listing the companies that you work for, the length of time, what you did, and then you can from there, you can link to examples from that job. Here, it does not have to be by date. Like typically on a resume, you can reorder. It allows you to kind of drag and drop so you can put it in order of importance. So if you're looking for a job in film and you had an internship a year ago, but you've had other jobs since, you could put that internship to the top because it most closely relates to what you want to do. You can also skip things if you think they might be detrimental to finding the position, or if they just don't relate at all and you don't think they're going to help you. The other thing LinkedIn allows you to do is skills, and then you can be endorsed for those skills. So you're allowed to list a bunch of skills, whatever that may be. So they could be programs that you've been trained in. They could be, again, things like customer service. It could be acting, singing, voiceovers, whatever it is that you have experience with. and you can list those things. And then what happens is people, as you work in the field and people visit your profile, they can then endorse you for those different pieces. So they can say, yes, that person did that for me. They did a great job. They can also do things called recommendations, which are a little bit more involved. And so the endorsements are kind of these like quick little things that they can mark off versus a longer recommendation. And in the long run, you want to get both. So if you already have experience and you've already been working in the field for a while, you can ask people to endorse you and to write recommendations on your LinkedIn profile. So it kind of helps build it up. One of the other things with LinkedIn is that you want to add as much content as you possibly can. Really take the time to go through all the different sections, and they constantly move things around. But if you just kind of like search around now, a lot of the new sections are off to the right in LinkedIn. I'm going to bring over mine real quick. So it has this area here where you can edit your profile and your public URL. And so this is what the edit screen is going to look like. Here's that personal URL I mentioned. And then here allows for editing content. You can also choose what things it shows and what it doesn't. So here's all these things. You can turn them on and off. It has, as well as education, there's a section for certifications. So this is if you don't have a degree, but you've completed some certificates of some type, whether online or at the college or anywhere, you want to enter those in. And then there's also some areas for things like volunteer work, for interests. If you are really active in volunteer work, then I would definitely list it. So before I'm going to keep going. So any questions about getting your LinkedIn profile really fleshed out?
How many people are just starting in LinkedIn? There's a few people, okay. So you guys are fresh, you have a fresh slate, and the rest of you you already have them, so you got to update them, right? And kind of get them ready for the next adventure. So this is, and if you guys look at your assignments, this is going to be due, right? Everybody look at, okay, so you guys know it's coming. All right, excellent. And Kendra, we do this, Kendra's with us for these next 4 weeks. She's going to be tuning in, so she'll be able to put her eyes on things too. And she's on our Facebook page, so she can give you feedback there as well.
Yeah, feel free to post your profile in there, and then you can tag me if you want me to look at it. I'm happy to provide any feedback. So the next thing I want to talk about is that idea of business branding. So this is if you were looking to start a company, whether it's like a larger organization where there's employees, or you're looking to start a company as yourself. So either way, the same principles apply. So my company my KLA Concepts has kind of varied over time. I've had times where I've had multiple employees, and now I'm kind of just back to me, but it's still a company. And so I post as a company. I've got social media accounts as the company, a website as the company, versus as myself personally. Even though I'm really the only person in the company right now, it's kind of stays that way. And that allows you to have the company kind of ebb and flow. And so if you're looking to maybe start a production company or a film company, even if it's just you right now, you can still go through that whole process of branding the company. So thinking about the logo, deciding on who that target market's going to be, so who that ideal customer is going to be, what they look like, what they're looking for, and then designing and creating the social media accounts and a website with all that branding. And one of the first things that I know assignments is Facebook. And Facebook business, I know a lot of you are pretty tech savvy, so, but just in case anyone doesn't know, there's Facebook is, you have your profile, your personal profile, but then you have business pages, and you have to have a personal profile in order to set up a business page. And you use that personal profile to manage, and you can have multiple business pages and manage, like I have from my personal account, I manage 15 different Facebook business pages for all these different reasons. As a Facebook business, you can also set up a Facebook group. And Facebook business pages are getting less traction nowadays because of all the changes that have been happening in social media. So some companies have been having a business page and then they have a group, because group posts show up in people's news feeds where the business posts don't necessarily show up. But it's still a good idea to set up a Facebook business page. And like I mentioned before, you can, if you're looking for a job, you can set up this business page with your name and have it be completely public, and then be posting things that you're doing that could potentially entice employers. You can also do a Instagram business page, and they're set up the same way the personal pages are, but what happens is when you go into Instagram and you go into the settings, you would then change it to a business, convert it to a business page. You have to have a Facebook business page in order to turn on the Instagram business page. And then they communicate, and if you're going to do any advertising, you can run the ads, you set them up in your Facebook business page, and then they can run on the Instagram as well. The other thing about doing business pages versus personal is the business pages, you get things called insights or analytics. So you can see how many people are visiting the page, you can see how long, what they're clicking on, what they're most interested in that you're doing. And so especially if you're looking for customers, that's the best way, because then you can really look at what's happening on these pages and say, oh yeah, this is working. I did a video on this and lots of people watched it. Then with Twitter, it's basically you're setting it up the same way. There isn't like a separate Twitter business. It's just you're making sure it's not marked as private. You have the LinkedIn company pages. And if you are really looking to start a business, then I definitely recommend setting up the LinkedIn company page. If you are just promoting yourself and looking for work, then I would just stick with the LinkedIn profile page. Then they have Pinterest. So Pinterest has business and private. And the difference is the business pages can show prices if you have a product. So if you're pinning from your own website and you have things that are for sale, and you have it integrated with your Pinterest business page, then it will show you prices for your customers. So if you're just doing services, it really doesn't matter how you set up that Pinterest page. Also, Google Local, if you're setting up a business, because it's free, and those show up first in the search engines. And so even if you're just doing like a sole proprietorship where it's just you, if you can do the Google Local, I highly recommend you do it. You can hide your address. You have to put an address in, and they send you like a little postcard for verification. But then you can kind of hide the address if you're doing it from home. Or as a student, you can list the university address if you can get someone to grab the postcard and give it to you. And then Google Plus, which is really going away. Does anyone use Google Plus? I'm just curious. No, really. So, Google came out with this. They had really high hopes. They're like, this is going to be the best platform ever. It's going to take over Facebook. And it really bombed. But It still exists. It's still there. There's within Google Local, there's now this like mini social media platform. So there's Google Posts within Google Local, and those actually get seen a lot. So Google Plus, you can set it up. It kind of integrates with the Google Local account anyway, and then post in the Google Local posting area. It's actually, I've been using it for the small business that I manage, and each post that we see, I've had upwards anywhere from like 50 to 600 views, which for a small local business is, I really can't complain about that. Just gonna bring it up and show you real quick. So this is what the platform looks like. And they have a post area. And you can see the posts, you can see how many times there's views, how many times they're clicked on, and they show up in the sidebar when someone is searching for the topic that you have, or the company, or something. If you're posting about being a film company and someone asks for film company in the Seattle area, potentially those posts can show up there on the right-hand side. So it's definitely worth it. Again, I'll still mention YouTube. I know Vimeo is really the preferred platform, but again, because Google owns it, when you do a search, that's the first thing that's going to show up. So I just put in Film Seattle. And so there's a bunch of different things that come up, but right in the top, you're going to see a lot of things that are posted in YouTube and not Vimeo. And that's why you still want to use it as a platform, even though it's not really the preferred method. Lastly is Snapchat. So again, it depends on who that target market is. This is a really popular platform for companies now when their demographic is younger. So the majority, 75% of people that use Snapchat are under 25. Do you guys, are anyone an avid Snapchat user?
Isaac does.
Well, you'll probably start seeing more and more ads on there because companies are really buying into it now.
Isaac has noticed the ads, he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be a lot.
But like, I don't really like it when a platform goes ad-based because it gets bogged down by what that advertiser wants out of the content instead of what the content creators want, and then it becomes a really confusing mess of like what shouldn't be on there. And it, at least for YouTube, YouTube's forced to curate their content like artificially. It's no longer who actually has the most views. It's what YouTube wants people to see because of the advertiser's control over them. So it's not the best way to run a free speech platform, but if you want to do ad.
Well, this is kind of the big thing right now with all of the social media. I mean, there's a lot of controversy going on pretty much every platform. So that combination of advertising and what's happening with that, and that level of what's considered free speech and what's not, and then the whole issue with fake news, which is really big. And I was actually just read an article today where they're talking about how they are now able to create videos where they look real. And so it's politicians, and they can make them look like they're saying stuff they're not saying, and you cannot tell. And so these controversies are going to be bigger and bigger as far as that, and these social platforms are going to change how they do things, which might take away some of our level of free speech. And there's always going to be that great debate. With the Facebook has made so many changes to how they deal with the business pages. And it used to be the go-to for small business owners because you could get a lot of traction, you could really get your word out and not have to pay anything. But now as a business page, you hardly get seen unless you're advertising. And now, when you go through your Facebook feed, it's like every other thing's an ad because all these companies are putting a lot of money into Facebook to get seen at all. And it sucks. Like I'm sick of seeing all the ads. It was fine because I liked pages. I wanted to see what they had to say. I don't want to see all these ads. But it's still kind of a way to at least get your name out a little bit. And so even though there's just not as much traction as there used to be, I still recommend it as a platform. And I know this is another one of your homework assignments is to set up a Facebook business page. And how you're going to do that is going to depend on what your goals are. So again, if you are looking to get hired, or if you want to create a company, you would use either one of those things. You could use your name or you could use the company name. And what you're going to be looking to do is you're going to want to use a profile photo. And if you're doing it for yourself, you'll want to use a photo of yourself. If you want to start a company, then you could use the logo as your profile image. And then for the cover is you can now do slideshows or video. And if you can do video, I definitely recommend it. And seemingly where you're at, I think most of you guys would probably be able to kind of create something that's pretty unique. And then what you're going to want to do is fill out as much information as possible as far as your category. You're going to want to do a custom username. And again, those custom usernames, just like in LinkedIn, help you get found easier. You're going to want to, they now have the story, just like there is in Instagram, if you're active in Instagram or in Snapchat. So like Snapchat started that whole concept of the stories, and then now all the other platforms have picked it up. So they have this story for the pages. So you can add some like longer text, a longer description. If you're looking for a job, what you could put in there is talk about your experience. So you can make it this personal story of your goals and what you're trying to do. They have, like when you set up your page, there's all these different options of like, if they changed, there used to be like 6 and now there's like 3 options. So if it's like a local business, if it's a community, and then like a corporation. I can't remember exactly what they call the 3 of them, but probably what you'd want to do is if you choose local business, then you have to put an address in there. So just kind of keep that in mind so that, if you don't want to have a home address, or maybe use the university address, if you choose local business. If not, if you choose like community, then it's not going to ask for that. The other thing that you can do is integrate with any other platforms you have. So you can integrate your Instagram. So if you do an Instagram business page, you can have the feed show up here on the tab. So you can, over here on the left, you can see all the different tabs. Some of those are built in and they come with, depending on how you've set up your business page, and some of them are add-ons. So it's just like an app that was installed to integrate. So I've integrated MailChimp, which is a newsletter program that I use with here. So if they click on this newsletter, there's like a sign up form and they can sign right up and it's automatically added to my MailChimp feed. Let me just bring that over here. So then they can just put the information in, it automatically goes to MailChimp. The other thing is events. And so events are, if you do any type of event, you definitely want to use this event feature. This is probably one of the few things on Facebook that still, for businesses, that still really works, because one, Facebook constantly promotes the events and automatically because like, I don't know about you guys, this is kind of the one thing in Facebook I do really use personally, is I can go in, I'm looking for something to do, and I can search for, hey, what's going on this weekend near me within 20 miles or 30 miles, and it will show me everything, all the concerts, any classes, any kid events, any dog events, whatever. And then I can be like, all right, this is what I'm doing this weekend. And a lot of those events, they didn't have to pay for people to see those. So definitely use that feature as much as you can. They also have a services feature. So these are the things that you can offer. You can put pricing in there. You can put as a little bit of detail information. So this just kind of helps people find things about you. Those aren't really promoted a lot unless you kind of run an ad, but it's there if someone does find you. It has a direct video tab, so any videos that you post will show up there as well as in the post feed. Here's the Instagram feed. Actually, mine doesn't work anymore because I privatized my Instagram, but the whole feed would show up here. The Pinterest. So I have one Pinterest board that I have my Pinterest page is personal, but I integrated one board with this. So it's all kind of business related things I post and they come up on this right here on Facebook. And then there's now reviews, and reviews and recommendations are going to be kind of getting this whole makeover right now. They're rolling it out. And these are going to be really, really growing, and some of the first things that show up on mobile. And they've actually just really kind of announced that this week. So if you're on your phone and you're on a page, it could potentially recommend another business that does the same thing as you. So it's going to be kind of important to get as many recommendations as possible so you kind of stay on top, or Facebook's going to be driving people away from your business page, which is probably going to cause some controversy once it really rolls out. So questions about setting up the Facebook business page?
So this is really if you guys are thinking about sort of your professional profile, right? So this is the people who want to be cinematographers, editors, production design, any of that type of, so that's going to be your work, right? And really separating your work from your personal space and wanting to showcase it. It's very visual, so especially those who are doing graphics or motion graphics. So again, some of these tools, you have to find which ones, but those tools can help kind of promote that work for you in one place, which is easier. In the past, like when I first started, I had to put everything on a tape and bring it, big tape.
Yeah.
Was a banner a place for a reel?
So we got a question, would the banner be a good place for putting a video reel?
Yes. You just have to keep in the size.
Like, do you happen to know if it's 16 by 9? The banner?
No, let me tell you. It is not, Hold on, let me tell you what.
Weird.
Yeah, the sizing is always kind of,
Well, I found out how many pixels it is, but that doesn't tell you the ratio.
How many
Yeah.
pixels?
Is that right? Yeah. It'd be 851 by.
yeah, 312, right?
Yeah. This one says 315, but yeah.
So you may want to do something that's just not your reel. That's a little special piece that's just playing. Looping, right? Something that loops.
Maybe something even shorter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or when you export your reel, you can export it in media encoder so that it compresses everything down to Facebook standards, so it won't be all blotchy and nasty looking. Yeah, it'll encode it. It'll drop it to a lower resolution, so it will look cleaner on Facebook.
And it's 20 to 90 seconds for the length. You can do, like in Premiere Pro, I know you can do the custom size. And there's some of the online design programs, if you use their pro account, like Crello, you can do some animation stuff, or there's another one, Animatron, that you can do some animation stuff in the custom size. But it's.
I was just thinking that because you were talking about Vimeo too, is sort of it's having those teasers that are out there that maybe go to the professional platform. Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it, is to house your professional reel on Vimeo, but then have teaser pieces that are on YouTube and on your other social media platforms.
Right.
Yeah.
So would that be like uploading shorter videos or like parts of long?
I would just say like just pieces more. It's more, you know, like just a piece that's a flash.
Yeah.
You know, something that's going to entice someone, right? It's a little 20-second or 30-second something.
Just show like a part and then say, you know, see the rest on my video.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you could put those. You can put those in the. That's jumping ahead on me. Hold on. You can put those links, both you could do them as posts. So you can upload, and like Facebook has more, if you upload directly into Facebook a video snippet like that, it gets more traction than if you embed a video. So, and a lot of the social media platforms are that way. So what you would do, which takes a lot of time, but you'll have the potential to reach the most viewers, is if you do something square for Instagram and then upload it directly into Instagram, and then Facebook, upload directly into Facebook, and you can do square into Facebook as well. LinkedIn, it's the same thing. If you upload directly into LinkedIn versus linking from, but then you can, with those, when you upload directly, you still have a chance to put in some text. So in that description, then you would link off to your Vimeo account.
We have another question, Kendra.
Because all these different platforms have become so much more monetized, is it a lot harder to get noticed if you're not paying to play, like if you're not paying to promote posts and stuff?
On Facebook, definitely. On the other platforms, not necessarily, because they, like Instagram and Twitter, still have more of that, the feed that's still more by time versus being like with Google and Facebook, they have their algorithms which determine how things show up, and those algorithms are changing constantly, and if you're not paying, it is much, much harder to show up. With Twitter, it's just a constant feed, and same with Snapchat. So it's just a matter of posting at the right time. And that's the other thing that you've got to think about when you're posting is who that target market is. Think about when they're on social media and make sure you're posting on things like Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat at those times that person's on. So that's why you do need to figure out who that ideal person is, so you can kind of figure out when they're online as well as what platforms they're on. So we got like 5 more minutes. I got a few more things. I just kind of reminders is really be careful about what you're posting on all the platforms, whether personal, professional, or business. Again, because some of those companies might potentially want to see what you're doing, and be wary of the groups that you join and what other people are posting that you're connected with. And also be wary of things dealing with legalities on social media, because there can be, you can get in trouble with things like disclosing confidential information, making fun of another company. So there's defamation issues. So if you have competition, don't talk about them. Even if they do something really stupid and horrible, continue to talk about what you do right, not what someone else is doing wrong. The fact that once things are online, they're almost never gone once they've been posted. So there's lots of companies that have done really stupid things, like using a hashtag that they shouldn't have been using, or making a joke that was inappropriate, and someone saw it, someone made a screenshot, so it's around forever. Again, that human resources, so that is that concept of someone wanting to see or get access to some of your social media before hiring you. Think about make sure you're checking your privacy settings on everything. So everything that should be public, make sure nothing's hidden, and everything that should be private, make sure it stays private. Be careful of, fake endorsements or fake testimonials. And then be careful about using trademarks and copyright. And I think those might be some of the 2 biggest ones for what you guys do. So if you use any trademarks or that are logos that are already, you have to be in any of your videos, even if you're just talking about them. This little quote that I used here has to be used. So if you're just I technically, I use a bunch of logos for a bunch of classes, and I have to post this on the slide every time I show one of those for legal reasons. So make sure if there's stuff that's showing up in the background of any of your videos, be wary of what's there, or any of your graphics, who owns them, and if you need to be placing a little text on there, or if you need to hide it, blur it out, or remove it. And then copyrighted works, I don't know how you gather images, but really pay attention to what you have access to, what you can use, what the regulations are. I work a lot with both web design and graphic design, and I can't tell you how many times I've had someone say, oh, here's a bunch of images to use for my website. And I was like, well, okay, well, where did you take these? And they're like, oh no, I got them off Google. So many people think that just because they found it on Google, they can use it and it's free. Or they've tried to, this watermark, they've tried to hide the watermark and then give me the images to use. And depending on what you guys are doing, you may have to be aware of that, because you may have customers that give you pieces of video or images to include in a video that they don't have the right to use. So make sure that both if you're picking them or if someone's giving them to you, there's correct ownership, because you can be the one that gets in trouble even if someone gave them to you to use. There's 4 types of main licenses for audio and video and photos. So public domain, which means it's kind of free to use and without a license. Then there's royalty free. So that means there's a license that's been purchased, but it doesn't really have a lot of restrictions. So you could get a royalty-free video snippet and you could put it in a bunch of different videos. What changes with the royalty-free is if you're going to make money on that, then you're supposed to buy what's called an extended license. So if you were just doing like a little promotion video, so hey, look at the editing I can do, and you get a bunch of royalty-free videos and you could clip them together and overlay stuff, that would be okay. But if you tried to sell that video, then you would need to purchase the additional licenses. The other one's a rights managed, and so this is you purchase the rights to use a video, photo, or audio, but you can only use it one time. The license that Getty sells is a rights managed license. I don't know if any of you have heard or experienced this, but Getty has been going out and suing people like crazy. And they have literally rooms of people that search online looking for their images being used incorrectly. And they are making a mint on this. So be really careful on these rights managed licenses. And then there's some COO licenses. And so those are kind of someone just gave up, right? And so anyone can use it for anything at all. And those are usually the best ones because then you don't even have to, you could just use it for whatever you want to do. Said that already. So kind of just to wrap up, remember everything that you do stays online for pretty much ever. If you're familiar, there's something called the Wayback Machine. So you can go to a website in the past and see what it looked like. So this means that even if something was deleted off the site and you go to the site now, but if you go to the site in the Wayback Machine, whatever you put and had deleted, it's still there. So if you said something stupid on a blog post, people can still get access to it.
Does that work for videos that have been deleted off the internet though?
You know what? I'm not sure if it works for videos. That's actually a good question. I know it works for text and photos. I'm going to look that up right now.
Just makes me curious about what videos you guys have out there.
Yes, you can find old videos, movies, newsreels, audio, old-time radio, and more.
That's so cool.
So if you're not hiding anything, it's really great. But if you are, then maybe not as much. So questions?
You guys have any questions for Kendra?
So your homework, I know between now and the next time, you'll be setting up your business Facebook pages and your LinkedIn profiles.
At least one. Yeah, so we have the LinkedIn, and I think, when do we see you on Tuesday?
No, let's see.
Anyway, we can look at the calendar. Or you maybe Kendra look it up.
No, it's not for a week. So the 21st is the next time. Let's see, right?
Hey, I put the assignments in Jupyter Ed for those of you who are using Jupyter. You guys also have the date on the syllabus. And I'll also remind you through the Facebook as well. So for some of you who haven't, I sent an email to those folks if you guys want to get connected with the Facebook page, just get in contact with me.
Yeah, the 21st and the 23rd for the web part.
Okay. So yeah, so we want to kind of bust out the social media stuff in the next week or so, and then we'll get into creating our websites for our portfolios. Yeah. So no questions, you guys? Not right now? Okay. So if we think of any questions, you guys can always have them and we can send them to Kendra.
Yep, post them on the group page or save them.
Well, thank you, Kendra.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right,
All right, we'll see you.
bye.
Bye.